You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
We're now going to be joined with Maria McCarthy. She's going to be telling us all about and reading her poems from Strange Fruits. Maria, it's great to see you here at BRFM.
Thank you for asking me along, Daniel.
Now, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your collection and Strange Fruits for us, Maria.
Yes, it's a collection of my poetry, of poems that I've written over about a 5-year period, and it was published last year to raise funds for Macmillan Cancer Support. All profits from the sales of the book go to Macmillan, and around £750 has been raised so far. I thought it would be a good opportunity to come in today, as last Friday was Macmillan's World's Biggest Coffee Morning, and this coming Thursday is National Poetry Day.
Okay, so Maria, could you tell us a little bit about yourself as well this evening?
Yeah, I'm a writer of poetry and short stories, and I've also written and broadcast as a columnist for Radio 4's Home Truths a few years back. I used to work in the voluntary sector, but I had to give up my career back in 1999 due to chronic illness, and I started writing poetry after I'd finished working. And then I started entering some writing competitions, which included a short story competition, and that paid half my fees to do a creative writing course at the University of Kent. So I first took a certificate course, and then I later on went on to gain an MA in creative writing in 2008. And I live in Tenham now, but lived there for about 4 years, and prior to that I lived in the Medway towns for about 20 years, and both Medway and Swale inform a lot of my work, and I write in a shed at the end of my garden, and I occasionally lead creative writing workshops in that shed.
Now, I know you're going to read us some of the poems from Strange Fruits, so I was wondering if you could read us one now, Maria.
Yes, I thought I'd start with the title poem, Strange Fruits. Blackberries shrivel on Cellar Hill, though a few late blooms defy the new order, bletted plums usurped by ripening pears. A kestrel hovers over the orchard, the gate staked by an estate agent's board. Cobnuts lie scattered like popcorn on the turning to Linstead Lane, by the houses that first broke through the earth in the spring, now de-scaffolded, exhaling steam through plastic heating vents. And strange fruits hang in the hedgerow, Stella cans, a cooperative bakery wrapper with orange sticker, reduced to 40p.
Maria, how did you come to write Strange Fruits?
Well, as I mentioned, I had a lot of poems that I'd written over a period of 5 years. And then what happened was, in November 2010, I lost a very close friend called Karen McAndrew. I lost her to cancer, and she died after a very short illness, and she was just 50 years old. And what I wanted to do was something in her memory. And while she was ill, she and her family were helped by Macmillan Cancer Support, so I decided to ask the charity if they would agree for me to fundraise for them by publishing a book of my poetry. And I also approached Word Aid, which is a collective of poets based in Canterbury, and they're committing to fundraising for charity by publishing poetry books. And I asked if I could publish under their banner, and they agreed.
So how long did it actually take to get the book out, Maria?
Well, first of all, I collected together the poems that I thought would go well together in the collection, and I wrote a few new ones just for the book. And my husband, Bob Carling, has worked in publishing for many years, and he did the editorial work, making sure that the book looked really good. And I asked a favourite poet of mine, Manisa Alvi, if she would read the collection and provide an endorsement for the back cover. And then Vicky Wilson of the Word Aid Collective wrote a foreword, and an artist friend, Maggie Drury, designed the cover image. So by the time all those things were put together, from the first idea to the finished book, took about 3 months.
Now we're reading some of the poems from that book. Maria, I was wondering if you could read us another one.
Yes, funnily enough, this poem started on a walk up Cellar Hill, which was mentioned in the title poem. Cellar Hill is very, very close to where I live in Tenham. And it's called The Brickbat Wall. One side of a garden gate, A man is building a wall from 3s and 4s and bits of bricks stuck higgledy-piggledy, tumbling, climbing, upright crazy paving, a never identical twin to the old wall on the other side. Can't get 'em now, says the builder, meaning brickbats, rejects from the brickfields of Cognac where men like him once worked. So he makes his own with separate, perfect bricks, cementing them to other perfect bricks, breaking, mosaicing, tipping and turning. Years ago, I made a patchwork quilt. Of old, scraps were clipped from clothing, stitched by hand. I cut my bedspread from bolts of new material, machine-stitched stars and strips and blocks. Perfect fabric reimagined, pretend, make do and mend. How strange, these crafts of breaking and joining, attempting the random. Recreation as recreation. The old wall stands dark and mottled, the new wall a uniform yellow, like painting by numbers, with only one number.
Maria, how did you sell the books?
Right, I organised a number of launch events, which included readings at Gillingham and Canterbury libraries with some other poets, and the Gillingham event had some music as well. In fact, Swale Sings Community Choir came up to give a few songs as well. And there was an evening of poetry, music and dance with other artists at the Avenue Theatre in Sittingbourne that actually took place a year ago today on the 1st of October. And also had a book signing with strange fruits-themed cakes made especially for the occasion at Jittermug's Cafe in Faversham. And apart from that, the book is sold through a website at various events and via online booksellers such as Amazon, and it's still selling quite well a year after publication. So it's still going to remain a fundraising resource for Macmillan for years to come.
Now, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the theme of the poetry.
Right, there's a number of themes in the book. There's the urban landscape of the Medway towns where I used to live, and then the rural setting of my home where I now live in Tenham. There's some poems about my heritage as the daughter of Irish parents, particularly about a trip I made to my father's hometown 7 years after he died to find out more about him. And most of the poems are quite serious, though there are some with a humorous theme, including a sequence called Dentists.
Now, we are hearing some of those poems this evening, Maria. I was wondering if you could read our listeners another one.
Yes, I thought I'd read one from my time living in Medway, and I lived in Strood. And I don't know if any of your listeners will remember that there was a big fire at the Matalan store a few years back.
Right.
And this poem is called After the Fire at Matalan. Men in uniform lift and lower the tape for other men in uniform as the crane rises and circles. Neighbouring stores close, choked by the acrid plumes. Bank holiday shoppers deprived of DIY and carpets. And those of us housebound by the flames walk by late afternoon to view the carcass of this giant industrial bird, its curved bones bared like a half-carved turkey, and inhale charred remains that float, then settle on the concrete of the retail park. Ochre insulation like discarded nesting. Close to Christmas, graffitied hoardings disguise the deconstruction, apologise for the inconvenience, while skip lorries rattle the ashes of the pyre through the town. Viewed through the square link fence, an open space, a pile of rubble. And still stray slices of the old bird's nest skim the car park, perch on the branches of the winter trees.
Maria, what are you working on now?
I'm writing a sequence of poems which are based on the orchard that I can see from my writing shed, and I've also completed a collection of short stories called As Long as It Takes, which is about the experiences of first and second generation Irish women living in England, which should be published next year. But before that, I have edited a collection of poetry and fiction called Unexplored Territory, which includes the work of 17 writers, some from Kent, some from beyond Kent, and that will be published in November with a launch at the New Canterbury Library in Babini on the 15th of November.
So how can people find out more, and of course buy Strange Fruits?
Right, you can find out more about Strange Fruits and buy a copy by going to I'll read that again. www.culturedllama.co.uk, and that's llama as in the creature, so that's 2 L's, Llama. And the book costs £8. As I mentioned, all the profits go to Macmillan Cancer Support, but you can also buy the book from any online book retailer.
Now, before you go, Marie, I was just wondering if you could read us one more poem from the book.
Right, I thought I'd actually read you a new one that isn't in the book, but this one will be in the new anthology I mentioned, Unexplored Territory. And it's one of the sequence of poems about the orchard that I can see from my writing shed. It's a largely disused orchard where the fruit isn't picked, and there are a number of things stored on the orchard, or odd things that appear on the orchard. We don't know how sometimes things appear there, like we once had a Black & Decker workmate appear in the snow standing between the apple trees. But one of the things that I have noticed a lot is that there are a number of boats that have appeared on the orchard. So this poem is called There Are Boats on the Orchard. Tarpaulin stretched over hull, on twin wheels with one flat tyre tilted starboard, a parched prow points towards the water butt that catches the runoff from the outhouse roof. It's seen the turning of the seasons twice in this spot across from its mate that nestles in the hedgerow, mast scraping hawthorn. The farmer's in the orchard, with a man and van with drainage solutions inscribed on the side. A handshake, then solutions man hooks hedgerow boat to trailer, tacks between the blossoming trees. There was a speedboat too, that should have been cresting the waves at Whitstable, but sat so long in the gap by the broken-down horsebox that I noticed neither its presence nor absence till a policeman neighbour saw paperwork at the station relating to its liberation. There were floods in '53. Hundreds of sheep were drowned due to loss of local knowledge, left to graze on marshland reclaimed by the estuary that lies between the mainland where the orchard stands and the Isle of Sheppey. One grass-locked vessel waits for the waters to swell.
Marie, I'd like to thank you very much for coming along this evening, tell us all about Strange Fruits, and also giving us a chance to hear some of the poems from that book as well.
Thank you very much for asking me along, Daniel.